Have you ever thought just how boring or ridiculous news commentary is today? Welcome to the Real Jacks Podcast with Jim and Larry. The Real Jacks Podcast. From crime and politics to entertainment, you can expect something different. Now, let's get real, Jacks.
Hey, welcome back to Real Jacks with Jim, Larry, and Crawfish. Today's special guest is Blake Harper. Sorry, Blake. I blew that right from the start. Blake Harper, Citizen Advocate. I love your title.
Thank you.
After Larry talks about the people that keep us on the air, we're going to chat with you.
Extreme Wings, 4 convenient locations, family sports, restaurant, grill, more than just wings. Tremendous Barbecue, open since 2007, 8927 Hurlong Road, open 11-8 Tuesday through Saturday. On Sunday, 11 to 3, full barbecue menu, everything homemade, cater anytime, cater any event. They love first responders. Advanced Window Tent, 5024 Sunbeam Road, over 26 years experience here, 3M Platinum dealer. Highest level of 3M dealer around. They tent vehicles, homes, and businesses. Secure One Protection Services, Jim's company.
Hey, your number one choice for security systems since 1986. Personalized service and discounts to law enforcement and first responders. 356-1111.
D-Way Towing, 100 South Jackson Avenue, Doug Dixon's company. Phone number is 904-356-3929. Handle all your towing needs. Shannon Judge with Legends of Real Estate. Shannon Judge Real Estate at gmail.com, and her phone number is 904-200-8158. Bouncer Roof Fund, Mike Kellum, former JSO and friend, serving North Florida for over 15 years and over 10,000 parties. Bouncer Roof offers a large selection of inflatable hoppers, water slides, interactive games, concessions, and frozen drinks. Offers large event tents, tables, and chairs. Always discounts to first responders and rental rates. If you rent on the weekend, you keep the whole weekend. Norman Brewer for Jacksonville, District 11, City Council seat. We need fighters that will truly represent us on the City Council. Norman Brewer is that guy. He's a constitutional conservative. He's a former law enforcement officer. He's a successful businessman. Norm will call it like he sees it, and you will have no better advocate on the council.
That's for sure, especially the calling it like he sees it part.
Yeah.
Blake, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Citizen Advocate. I love the sound of that.
Appreciate it.
Talk to us.
People ask me how I've gotten into what I'm doing, and the reality of it is that when you sit there and you look at a problem, we grew up in a time when you were either part of the problem or part of the solution. And what I've watched and seen over the years, that people want to complain about a problem, but they don't want to step in and do the work that's necessary. They don't want to invest the time. They are many times they are intimidated by the process. It gets people out of their comfort zone. But the reality of it is that our country is the country that it is today because people got out of their comfort zones back in the American Revolution.
That is correct.
And people are forgetting today the discomfort of all the people who have stood for this country and defended this country, both across the seas and here in this country. So I take it upon myself to do what I can do, knowing that whatever I'm able to do as an individual, my message to people is you as individuals in this country of representative government, you have the power to do things. And we're not talking about stepping into a situation where we're talking about minefields and people shooting at each other. We're talking about stepping into the public square, stepping into county government and city government, and standing up and speaking for the founding principles for the things that made this country great. And when we do that, then we can turn the corner in what's happening in this country.
Our previous guest that was on, we just had a similar conversation about how people don't mind complaining about how things are, but they won't take the time to even research a candidate and go out and vote on a candidate to elect the proper leadership. And that's kind of your message there, is just not only getting involved and running for office. If you're not going to do that, at least take the time to do the research on the people you're going to vote for, or get out and vote at the very least. Go vote.
That's right. What they do is they complain about not knowing who the people are and what they stand for, but there are ways to find out. We have freedom of the press, we have freedom of speech, we have the ability to go watch these people down at where they make laws and they do the work that they do if they're already elected. There are two parts to this process that we need to really talk about. The first one is being a knowledgeable voter. But when you think about somebody who's elected, I like to think of a tombstone, because the date somebody's elected And the date somebody leaves office is not what makes a difference. It's a dash in between. And what I try to share with people is whether you're a parent or you own a business, you're responsible for somebody. If you own a business, you have employees. If you're a parent, you have children. Now you're not going to let your children or employees go do whatever they want. You're not going to let them tell you one thing and go do what they want to do. You're going to watch over them. Well, I like to call these people public servants. Public servants. We are their employers. What these people want to do, are asking us to do, is elect me, and I'm going to go do the work that I tell you during my campaign they're going to do. Mm-hmm. Now, right now we know how much nonsense that is.
Yeah, and they have their first term to prove that. What amazes me is how many people get elected to a second term when they never proved in the first term that they were going to do what they said they were going to do. It's because the voters,
it's our fault.
Right.
And the reason it's our fault.
That's the time to get them out. That's why there's a first and second term.
But you have to, you have to know. But even still, if somebody's running for a subsequent position, you know what they've done in the past. And this is what I'm trying to get to. That little dash in between, we have the right or the responsibility to vote. But we also have the right or responsibility of petition. If there's a law that you want to have made that's a good law, you have the right to present that and advocate for that. Likewise, if there's a law that you don't want to have made, you have the ability to stand up and say, no, don't do that. And you do that at City Council in Tallahassee and D.C. And there's a process. This is a representative government. And what is absolutely amazing to me is that in the 10 years I've been going down there, you're looking pretty much at the only person that goes down to City Hall, City Council, and pays attention to what goes on.
Yeah.
So much.
A lot of empty seats in there.
Oh, too many.
Yeah.
Too many. So much so that we have a Republican, and I'll just tell you who it is, Matt Carlucci. Matt Carlucci twice used a technical piece of technical legislative tool called a one-cycle emergency to try to increase taxes here in Jacksonville. In other words, he put up the proposal on Thursday night. It hit the agenda Friday, and he was expecting City Council to pass it 5 days later, with nobody knowing what was going on.
Yeah, anything that happens that fast, it's a blink of an eye, and people go, how'd that law just happen? Where'd that come from? Because they're ramming it through.
Well,
nobody has time to scrutinize it.
He is unique in this respect. They do it in different ways. We typically talk about the machine, and generally what I do is describe this process as sort of, I call it the steamroller process, where everybody gets together and they build their steamroller. They turn the engine on. They put on the parking brake, turn on the engine, and engage the gear. And when they bring it to City Council,
they release the brake,
and it goes forward. Yeah. The reality of it is that we have to know what's going on. We have to pay attention. They are doing things down at City Council. The Republican majority is doing things down at City Council that do not support or do not comport with the Republican Party platform, and do not represent the bedrock values of our city. Because we are not down there, and we don't hold them accountable. They can do that. And so when you come up to a second term, when you've had the opportunity to know what these people are doing, and you don't, who do we blame?
It's your fault.
Who do we blame? It's our own fault.
That's right.
And so my mission has been over the last 10 years, I do a program called You Have a Voice. And I started this back in 2017. I do it at the City Council, we do it at the school board, and we do it at the state level. And what I do is I invite genuine conservatives to come in and talk to people about how laws are made, and give them understanding of how they can get ahead of the process and be actively involved in the lawmaking process. A
lot of people don't realize you can watch these city council meetings, even in the smaller cities like Atlantic Beach and Jacksonville Beach, on TV. Right. I mean, they're broadcast. You don't have to be there. So you can, if you'll just take a couple hours instead of watching Family Feud or whatever, and watch these meetings, because these meetings only happen once. Is it once a month in Jacksonville, or twice?
No, second and fourth.
It's twice a month in City of Jacksonville, right. City Council. But just take some time and watch. Then if you see something you don't like, get your butt down there and speak up and say something.
Let's talk about that for a second. Remember I just talked about Matt Carlucci trying to use the one-cycle emergency? Every ordinance requires a public hearing. Okay? So generally that comes at second time in front of City Council, 2 weeks out. Okay? So by you not being there, when somebody tries to pull a one-cycle emergency stunt, because they have the public hearing on that night, you can't say anything. You're not there to speak. The other part of it is, and back on November 9th, the first meeting in November, when they were trying to take the statue down, the Women of Southland statue, Lenny Curry put up a $1.3 million ordinance to do that. I was part of a group that got 82 people down there. 82 people.
You got to have people turn out. Yeah.
Half of the room was full. And what's the message you think that the city council members get when they see you face to face, when they call you out? Aaron Bowman tried to censor prayer because R.L. Gundy went off the deep end in one of his prayers. He got political in it. I got 15 or 16 people down there, including pastors. And one of the pastors was a pastor of one of the city council members. And when they look at you eye to eye, and they see you and they hear you speak to them in respectful but firm tone, you don't think that doesn't carry weight?
Yeah, makes a difference.
What are we going to do to turn the corner? What work are we going to do? The fact that we drive down to downtown Jacksonville from maybe Atlantic Beach.
People are just, I don't want to say lazy, but
they're complacent.
I was going to say complacent instead of lazy.
Right.
But some people are just downright. Yeah.
Sometimes.
But I've spoke to city council before many times.
Yeah.
And when I lived in Atlantic Beach, I was involved in politics there, and I went to just about every meeting, which is only monthly there. And I would be one of the few people in the audience, but you'd see the same people over and over. And whenever an issue became a hot button, then everybody would call everybody, and you'd have 300 people there. And many times it made a difference, but many times the commission had made up its mind. And I remember one time when they tried to oust which they did, the city manager and the city attorney. This particular commission had made up its mind that they were going, and I would say 150 people spoke that night. Some very, I would say, pillars of the community. People, not just random people. I mean, attorneys, doctors, former mayors, former commissioners, and it fell on deaf ears. Everybody spoke. Everybody gave a valid argument as to why they should not be fired. But that particular commission had made up its mind, and by the end of the night, those two guys were fired.
So,
but not without a fight. I'll say not without a fight. And that stink went on for a long time because a lot of people did come out that night, and they stayed there till midnight.
Right. So I used to listen to Bill Bennett, Morning in America, and his comment was, the good thing about Americans is they have a short memory, and the bad thing about Americans is they have a short memory. Yeah. I'm a good friend of Norman's. That's how you and I got together. And he calls himself a constitutional conservative. I do as well. I'm first a constitutionalist. I'm second a Republican, because the Republican Party does not. The reality of the Republican Party is it is not foursquare behind the Constitution. I watched, and this is one of the things I'm so excited about Norm, is that he was part of the group that got a huge number of people down to City Council when the money people in Jacksonville tried to put a waste transfer station down in this neighborhood.
Yeah, that's a testament that how Norm can get things done. Right,
and that's a testament. But here's the one thing that I see down at City Council addressing when things are going to change. People will come down for zoning issues, LUZ issues. Okay, they come down for things that hurt them directly, immediately.
Yeah, in their backyard.
Yeah, but they don't come down for the social issues, the policy-wide issues, which destroys their quality of life and destroys their freedom and destroys their liberty. They aren't invested in that. And what happens when people? So the reality is, people get involved when they think they're going to get hurt. Yeah. When they're going to pay a price personally. Yeah. And when people start, and this is what I put a note out on Facebook. Thank God for the mothers and the truckers. Got to be careful how you say that.
Let's just think of
Very slowly. Do it very slowly.
Yeah.
Say that fast 5 times.
No.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't try it.
The mothers and the truckers are the patriots today.
Yeah.
These people are standing up to a government overreach.
Well, we just had a mother in here.
Yeah.
Running for state house.
Yeah.
That's how they got Youngkin elected in Virginia.
Right.
My dad's home state.
Right. So what we have to do is, it's not okay. They're carrying the burden. You know, there was an Anglican or Episcopalian piece back in World War II, went on about, well, I didn't stand up when they went after this group of people. Didn't stand up when they came after this group of people. I didn't stand up when they went after this people. Now they're coming for me, and there's nobody left. That's the way. That's our mentality today. We're going to let somebody else carry the water. We're going to let somebody else stand in the fight. The reality is that what we're seeing with the mothers and the truckers is evidence that we, the people, have the ability to stand up and fight back, and do so successfully. In Canada, the only province up in Canada that has not buckled to the truck convoy is Ottawa. Province after province after province wiped out the mask mandate and wiped out the vaccine mandate.
Really?
And you're watching school boards here fall, and I am so looking forward to watching the all but one conservative school board members booted off the school board. You know, they're coming back after getting the half-cent sales tax. They're coming back for millage rate.
Millage rate increase.
Right.
Yep.
And it's all a matter of their bad financial behavior, management, and lack of planning.
You know, going back to the truckers, that's a revolution.
It is
in progress, and it's going to take a revolution, I think. And that doesn't mean another civil war. People can revolt in different ways, but the trucker thing's a revolution. It's going to take greater events like that, because your average citizen's not going to get off the couch and
conservatives were so upset when Biden got elected, and I probably wasn't in that group only because I knew he'd be so grossly inept that it would light a fire under conservatives and the average American, like you say, that it's almost like they stick their head in the sand and they want to manage things by crisis. I use that term a lot, management by crisis. They wait till things are crisis, then they want to management. And that's
but you're right,
what you should see. You should get to the point that you
the crisis doesn't occur
ahead of time and try to head them off at the pass, if you will, or change legislation or avoid these fights, or that they're trying to push through in the school boards or city government or at the federal level. Whatever it is being concerned about what goes on down at City Hall, at your county level, at your state level, at your federal level, and getting involved. And I commend you for doing that. I think Jim got ahead of me. What's your background? Where did you start? How did you get to this point? Where'd you grow up? How'd you get to the point you became a citizen advocate? What was your career? That kind of path.
Okay. Well, my career, I've been a banker for 20 years. I've been a car salesman.
Okay.
And I
know some guys that do pretty good doing that. So they made a career of it.
Yeah.
So
I got friends that have.
Right. So I having spent 20 years as a banker, I said, when you asked me as a banker, which a question, you expected my answer to be truthful. Now, as a car salesman, you're trying to figure out which half is a lie.
Right. Yeah.
And anyway. But so I've done a lot of different things. Another thing I've spent time doing is, you've heard of the Department of Children and Families. They have the food stamp, Medicaid, and access and cash assistance programs. It's called the Access programs. I spent 10 years on the far end of the firing line as a call agent, answering people's questions, and that was so. You really get some hardcore experience with what's happening. And I looked at the situation, and I said to myself, I'm in here. I'm a conservative. I'm watching this happen. God's got me here for a reason. And so what I would do is I use that first person experience. The most difficult thing for me to do was to call Bill Bennett, his national radio show, in 2000. When was it? 2008? When was it that they had the midterms that they kicked in 2010? And Bill Bennett was asking the question, if the midterms turn out the way we think they will, what would you suggest as bumper music? So I called in and talked to Claude, and I said, Claude, how about these boots are made for walking? Remember Nancy Sinatra?
Oh, yeah.
Got on there with Bill at national radio, first time ever. I go just stumbling through it like a complete, whatever, and they played the song as the what they call the extra when going out. So those are examples of what I've done in the past. What has gotten why I'm here doing what I'm doing. First of all, I was at the age of 5. My parents took us to Africa, and I lived in a country called Rhodesia. Mm-hmm. And Rhodesia is now called Zimbabwe. And if you take a look at what happened, the dictator, the communist dictator, was a man by the name of Robert Mugabe, and he's only recently been deposed.
I remember that name, yeah.
If you watch what happened in Rhodesia and Zimbabwe, and you see, and I watched this from afar because we left in '67. But I was always aware of it. I've always had a view outside of the boundary, outside of our borders. I've always had a view of what's going on in this respect. And you watch what happened in Rhodesia with Robert Mugabe and how he turned that country communist. My contention is that Robert Mugabe was the role model for Barack Obama. Bottom line, if you take a look at everything that he did, how he tried to take over things, use bully tactics to do things, to make claims that were opposite of with truth, mm-hmm. and preach a one-note song, that was Robert Mugabe.
Claims that were opposite of the truth.
Antonyms.
That's current times.
Yes.
Wrong is right, right is wrong. Things that don't make sense. Claims that are opposite of the truth. That seems to be the current theme these days.
Right. So I graduated from high school in '76. One of the books I had to read, and so basically,
was it here or
down in Miami?
Okay.
I moved up here in '88 as a banker. One of the books I had to read was a book called Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky.
Oh, wow.
And if you haven't read that, it's absolutely necessary to do it. When I was down at City Council, I went off on him. I said, listen, the Democrats' Party's playbook is this book. It's dedicated to Lucifer. The Republican Party playbook is this book. It was written by God. The reality is, if you take a look at the Republican Party, if you take a look at the founding documents, if you take a look at the founding principles, they all spring from the Bible. If you go back to Deuteronomy, you can read exactly how we are told to choose a president. Mm-hmm. That's the Old Testament.
But you notice how the other party sometimes doesn't even want to acknowledge religion or right to religion, right. And there's a lot of atheists and agnostics or whatever in that party. I mean, it's a fact. It's not just something I'm making up. That religion's not that important. That's why they want to keep it separate from school and state and everything, because it's the opposite. I don't know. I should say that, but it's contrary. Sometimes it's contrary to their agenda.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Well, it does. So
I had to be careful how I worded that.
Right. Absolutely.
I don't want to call everybody that's not a conservative non-religious or doesn't believe in the Bible. It's not true, but
right. So there was a Christian apologist by the name of Ravi Zachariah. And I was watching Ravi Zachariah one time, and he was talking about the notion of having an eternal set of rules of what's right and wrong. And of course, those, when you look at Judeo-Christian ethics, those are basically the foundation of Western culture. Okay, it's just a fact. Mm-hmm. It's not meant to promote one religion over. It's a fact. And Ravi's point was that when you say that you're going to live by an objective, third-party, eternal set of facts and truths, mm-hmm. and definitions of what's right and wrong. Right. What happens is it takes the me and you out of it. Mm-hmm. It takes my power over you out of it, okay, and your power over me out of it when you have an objective third-party source of information. And these are eternal truths. We go back 4,000 years and we look at today. Mm-hmm. What's happening today is proof.
Well, we embrace it.
Right.
I think you kind of made more clear what I was trying to say.
Right.
With that follow-up statement, I appreciate that because it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So here's the point: they have to get rid of that third-party source of mediation.
Right.
They have to do that for them to gain and hold the power that they want. Mm-hmm. So yes, they're going to do everything they possibly can to pull out an objective third-party set of guidelines for us to live by.
Nailed it. And that's why so many people. That's why there's so much wrong that seems to be right now, because nobody's following that guide. Mm-hmm. Well, I won't say nobody, but the people with the other agenda.
Well, and it's one of these things where, first of all, I'm thankful you've had me on, but I'm also here. I'm here to deliver the message of where we are, and the reality of the message of where we are is we've let other people decide how things work. Mm-hmm. We've let other people teach our children. We've let other people. This whole notion. Do you remember Michelle Obama saying something about we want to take care of your family from the day they're born to the day you die? Mm. That's big government getting involved in determining what you consider is right and wrong. Your value sets your morals, and this is what we have.
Socialism, communism, right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Liberalism is like that, and everybody, I've talked about it. Obviously, I'm a big Republican or conservative, even more so than I am a Republican, and I'll vote for a Democrat depending on their values. But there is a large wing of that Democratic Party that is like that.
I would say they're more behind the wrong is right than anybody else. I've been here 60 years. I've never seen a greater time in my life where wrong is supposed to be right now. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make sense. And again, I think it goes back to people aren't following the fundamental guide to what's right and wrong. And we know what that is.
And that's why I was just making a comment at City Council Tuesday night about my decision to get involved with the Unity Project, because of the fact that so much of what's involved with the Unity Project is living in a world of antonyms and living in a world of perverted facts, twisted facts, of living in a world of what my personal experience overwhelms the objective facts. The reality is that this is part of an effort to destroy our freedom of speech. Ultimately, in the longest sense of the word, this is an attempt to quash objective speech.
Yeah. The quicker they take guns, the quicker they can crush freedom of speech.
Right.
Well, that's the biggest problem.
The gun show loophole. Why it's important we fight that.
Well, okay, so I don't know if you read my information there. Mothers Demand Action for Gun Sense, the Women's March, Ban Assault Weapons Now, which is funded by and managed by a very, very key donor here in Jacksonville, conservative donor. You can look that information up to see who I'm talking about. They back in 2017, 2018, they started banging the drum about the gun show loophole. And
go ahead and say what the gun show loophole is for viewers and listeners. I think it's the people able to go on there and sell private party to other people and not being a dealer. Basically,
the gun show loophole is claiming that the private party transaction is the reason we have all this gun violence on the streets. Right. In other words, criminals go into gun shows and flea markets and buy guns and go out and kill people. That's what the gun show loophole is.
We proved otherwise.
You mean from
some of the data you sent us?
Yeah.
The one we had where Ben Fraser was supposed to show up and didn't. Yeah. We said what was the percentage? It was less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of gun show guns were involved in crimes.
So I've sent you some information. Whenever I speak in public, whenever I talk about things, I work with objective third-party facts. That information came from the Department of Justice.
Correct.
That information basically was looking at 289,000 people behind bars at the local, state, and federal level. Okay, 289,000 people. So they asked the question who had a gun element to their conviction. So they asked the question, where did you get your guns? 90% of them got their guns outside of the normal process.
Mm-hmm. The legal process.
And I'm going to say the normal process because you go to an FFL and you buy your gun there. Mm-hmm. Because the gun crossed over state lines, you're obligated to do it that way, and they're obligated to do a background check. Okay, 8.8% of that total 289,000 people got stupid. They went and bought a gun legally and did something stupid. So that leaves 1.2%. Of that 1.2%, 0.8% had bought their guns at gun shows. And when we were fighting Ben Frazier in the North Side Coalition and Bonnie Hendricks and Women's March and Linnell Philman and the Women's Demand Action for Gun Sense and the Ban Assault Weapons Now and just a bunch of crazy people. I had an attorney call me a liar when I had Eric Friday, who was the attorney, the legal counsel for Florida Carry, standing up and giving legal facts and opinion. And this attorney was calling me a liar as I was providing this information that had come from the Department of Justice. But we went through a process. It was about 6 or 9 months, and we did this through public comment. Okay, this is an example of how people can stand up and stand for our freedom. We did that through public comment, and we proved them to be the liars that they are. And when you take a look at everything they talk about, when you start looking at the facts, the true facts of the issues that they're talking about, their arguments and what they advocate just completely disappear.
So when you're talking about the gun show loophole, what it's really about is putting an end to private party transactions. What
they tried to do,
like if Larry and I may want to go in the parking lot, and I'm gonna buy a gun from Larry or vice versa, private party transaction.
Or
no paperwork, right? But a lot of gun shows, there are FFLs there, and you do have to do a background check, or you do have to show your concealed weapons permit. But they do have people like me or Larry or any of us that's not an FFL. They can go set up a table there and sell guns legally with no background check
they
to
can't
anybody.
Do it commercially. It can be like
a once a year thing, right? Once a year thing. But that's the real loophole there,
right? And the reality of it is,
but that loophole is no different than a private party transaction,
right. And the reality of it is that when somebody is buying a gun from somebody else, that's always the case. If you know somebody who's a crazy driver, a drunk driver, are you going to sell them a 700 horsepower Corvette?
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I don't want the liability. I don't want them coming back.
I lost a sale selling cars because I suggested to the mother that the daughter shouldn't be buying something like she was buying. She went down to another dealership and bought a car.
Yeah.
But from my standpoint, I didn't want them. I didn't want to read about this young girl winding up in a ditch.
Some hot rod.
Yeah. But to illustrate just how extreme and how based in falsehood they are. So there's something called the local county option, and the local county option came about back in 1998 when at that point in time, gun laws were based on a county by county basis. And you as law enforcement, you understand that once you cross a line from one county to another, the rules in that other county apply. So if you're going to go hunting in Taylor County, you might be a criminal in one county and you're good in the other. Mm-hmm. So what they did was the Florida legislature said, gun laws are made by state government. And they made it constitutional thing, and then they said in exchange, if you have people buying or selling guns on public property, in other words, government property, then those transactions must involve a background check. Those transactions must involve a background check. Well, what these people were trying to do is saying, even if Larry, you go to Jim's house. You're all sitting in the garage talking about stuff, and he's got an AR-15 that you wanted to buy, and you know how he takes care of his guns, and he likes you, and he's going to give you a good price. They were saying that transaction is going to be covered by this legislation. That's how crazy they are
on private property.
Yes, like I said,
because your private property sits on government property is what there's.
No. First of all, we have to go back to this whole notion we talked about. They speak in antonyms. What they try to do is they use the legislation as a weapon, as a tool. Mm-hmm. You see that over and over and over again.
You know where I see the biggest threat of that being is using that legislation to require mandatory registration of every firearm you own, and you're given like a 1-year period, amnesty period to do it, and then after that, if you haven't registered your weapon, you're an automatic felon, and that's how they're going to do it. they're going to make everybody start registering. And then so a lot of people are going to go, well, hell no, I'm not going to register mine. And they're going to keep them hidden in their basement or whatever. And they're going to be
Who are the
technical felons.
What level of government, when you say they, what level of government are you talking about?
Well, probably the ATF under the direction of whoever the current anti-pro 2A administration is at the time.
So aren't you glad you live in Florida?
Yes.
I am
yes.
too.
Yes.
Because as long as we have the people we have representing us, as long as we have the Ron DeSantis of the world as governors, that ain't going to happen.
And some very conservative sheriffs.
Yeah. There are some very conservative sheriffs.
Who have all signed orders stating they would never support any federal legislation to overly restrict people's rights to bear arms.
Yeah. And you'll be surprised how some people present themselves in one way and they're actually something else.
Well, the problem is the sheriffs it's a political office, and they become politicians once they run for sheriff.
Yeah.
And things can change.
That's why I like to use the word public servant instead of politician, because they're politicians. They're not doing the work that they need to do.
Public servants, correct?
Yeah.
They're politicians.
Absolutely.
They're politicians.
So.
Well, good.
Yeah. I didn't know we were going to be talking about guns, though.
I didn't either.
Blake, I'm sorry, but
It's okay.
It's Larry's fault because Larry didn't even tell me anything about
Larry
you.
likes talking about guns.
Right.
We like talking about guns, though.
Guns.
I would have been a little more
Larry
up to
likes
speed on the
shooting
subject.
Right.
If I run for office, they're going to see. That's the funny is you get a lot of politicians that talk about how they're 2A supporters or 2A guardians, but you never. It's like a catchphrase for them. They're checking a box.
Oh, once they get in there, it's like the taboo subject. Nobody wants to.
Significant protections of firearms and use of firearms.
Right.
I've used a firearm my whole life and still do and still carry, and so and still like to shoot.
Yeah.
Some of them you hear them say it, but you never notice that they have anything carried and or shot. They're never at the range, but they're just guardians of the Second Amendment.
Hey, since we're talking about guns, what do you think about the people that are pushing for open carry?
If you take a look at the states where open carry is a law, they have some of the lowest incidences of gun violence. What people don't know is that if you take a look at the number of people who have been shot by police and killed by police, that number is less than the number that has been shot by law-abiding, concealed weapon, gun-carrying people who were at the place at the time when the event was happening and stood
because there can't be a cop on every corner.
No.
So thank God I'm in line at Walmart, or not me, because I'll never go to Walmart, but in line at Publix.
Minutes away.
Right. And I'm in line when something's happening, and or maybe 20 other people are in there, maybe armed. You can't tell they're armed. But if there was open carry, then the bad guys are going to be able to see, okay, he's carrying, so I need to go over here or over there. And my other concern with open carry is when we did police work, what was that holster? Two-step holster? You couldn't walk up and pull a gun out of my holster.
Right.
Depends on the retention.
You get your arm broken if you tried, but there's multiple steps on getting the gun out of the holster. So if that's not a mandatory requirement, some old guy can be standing in line at Walmart.
Some places they've tried to have it. They've really pushed it over the edge, and the police don't have a right to talk to anybody that's carrying a firearm, because you could have felons carrying a firearm, and there's got to be some protections for police.
That's something
taking those actions.
We can talk about. So
I don't have a problem. I'm telling you, open carry doesn't bother me. I've been to Wyoming, and the first time you're in a state where it's open carry, it's almost it's a little unnerving, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
But then you wrap your mind around the idea that, man, this is good, and there is. Of course, the populations are not as dense as they are here in most of those places. But even, is which states we got there? Where's that list that you just had on?
This one?
Is that the one where it's open carry? That's not open carry.
Yeah, it is. So they're not all, but the ones that say no.
Well, wait, let me finish what I was saying. My concern is some people could be carrying a gun openly, and just about, depending on who they are, you could walk right up and snatch it out of their holster, standing behind them. Yeah. You're not going to do that to a police officer, but you see a 75-year-old guy with his gun there, and it's not a 2-stage holster, you sneak right up behind him and snatch it, and your felon just took off down the road with it,
Right.
and snatched it. And the
they don't steal them out of cars
right.
anyway.
And the other thing is, because of the constitutional rights, how many you get, the police are going to have a problem going up to these people and saying, "Hey, can you show me your credentials that you are legally allowed to be carrying that gun?" That's already a problem.
Oh yeah.
So
you
guys
have all
going
these
to go, "Oh hell no, I don't have to show you anything." Well, how do I know you're not a felon? Well, that's going to create a whole other problem.
I understand. I understand.
That's my arguments on the open carry thing, and that's why it could get very complicated and create a lot of problems.
But so I can get you the reference point for this information. There's somebody who has spent a lot of time talking about Second Amendment issues and backing it up with statistics. But we know that, and this is a low number. The person who publishes a book actually doubles it. We know there are at least a million instances a year where law-abiding citizens have intervened using their Second Amendment protections to either stop a crime or to keep a crime from happening.
I agree.
Yep.
So, between that and the fact that the historical record of open carry states at this point in time reinforces that, I'm for that. Okay. Here's what else I'm also for. When a state attorney lets somebody go who's a felon, who's carrying a gun, that's got to stop.
I can tell you the local state attorney, I know there's a guy, there's a lieutenant going around from the gun crime unit, the gun violence, one of the teams, and he was talking about the current state attorney we have in Jacksonville, that only 40% of the cases involving carrying concealed firearm by a convicted, possession of firearm by a convicted felon and or carrying concealed firearm were filed. So out of all the arrests, 40%. So you do 100 arrests for somebody carrying a gun illegally, they were only charging 40% of them. That's a problem.
40 people. Yeah.
That's a
I
problem.
recall a police officer saying his approach to somebody was, "Please don't do something stupid. I don't want you to do something stupid. I don't want to deal with the paperwork." So when you have that many police officers arresting people, and a state attorney, nobody wants to deal with the paperwork because it takes them off the street, takes them out of doing the job they're doing. But you have a state attorney. Oh, by the way, I fought very hard to get Angela Corey reelected.
Yeah, we've had her on the show.
And if you mention my name to her, she'll probably have a smile.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So
good people. Well,
Blake, it seems like there's a lot of stuff we could talk about.
Yes.
You get my brain going on some stuff. On mine thinking, and we could really go off into multiple directions on stuff. We need to have you back because I think we have a much longer conversation about many more subjects, and we'd love to have you back.
Thank you.
If you'd like to come back.
First of all, yes, I would like to come back. One of the things we were going to talk about today was the Unity Project. That is something which the people are trying, and the powers that be are trying to accomplish without us knowing about it. And I would like to come back and talk about that at one point.
Okay, say that again. What is it called?
The Unity Project.
Unity Project.
Right.
Okay.
The other thing, and I want to share this with the listeners, is that I just want to lift up Larry and Jim because of the fact that the media in Jacksonville has sold out. And when I say the media, I'm saying 100% of the media.
I agree.
Sold out.
Yeah, I quit watching 2 years ago because I got tired of being lied to and misinformed and everything else. And
I used to call in WBOB frequently. As you can imagine, I'm somebody who doesn't have a problem in this venue. And I will tell you that every single station, every single outlet has gone south. And the reason I bring that up because you two are doing the work of patriots. I truly believe that.
I think, didn't Bernie De La Ronda say the same thing?
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah,
I'm like, but we're trying.
Yeah, if you ever call me anything, I don't care if we're conservative or Democrat, Republican, I don't care. But patriot is probably the best thing you could ever call me.
Yeah,
right.
Same here.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got to run because we've got somebody else waiting to come in, and we've gone way over today with all of our other guests. And
Supposed to be done at 5, and it's 10 till. We got one more to do.
yeah. But again,
Jim goes down rabbit holes, and then he drags me down.
I know it's hard not to, but it creates an opportunity for you to come back because I've realized there's a lot of stuff we could talk about.
Absolutely.
And stuff that's of special interest to all of us here. So
local politics has been ignored, and those are the politics which affect our lives the most.
see, that's a whole nother show we could do because that's one of our favorite subjects.
Thank you.
Local
Yeah,
politics.
God bless y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Blake Harper, citizen advocate. I like that.
Yes, sir.
So, hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. That was Real Jacks with Jim, Larry, and Crawfish. Special guest Blake Harper, citizen advocate.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.